Okay, ciao Torino. Thank you for staying with us after Jeff. We've got another great guest here. So look, Mette, Jeff earlier praised entrepreneurs with a mission, and that perfectly encapsulates what you're doing, I think, as your company is at the forefront of fighting food waste. Now, let me start this conversation with a fact about the problems that we're facing as a society. Annual food waste in the European Union has an estimated market value of 132 billion euros. Yet at the same time, over 42 million people in the EU cannot afford a quality meal. So that's including meat, fish, vegetarian equivalent, every second day. Now, tell us about the role that Too Good To Go plays in aiming to fix this problem.
Yeah, Too Good To Go is basically mostly now an app that connects consumers with businesses that have surplus food left by the end of the day. So say you run a bakery, then every single day there's going to be some food left that you just didn't sell. Consumers go to Too Good To Go, look what's available nearby, and pick up that food. So as a consumer, in addition to saving the food, which is incredibly important, and we'll come back to that, you also have this surprise experience, because you don't know exactly what you're going to get, since food waste is unpredictable. And then also there's a good deal to be made, and we typically sell the food at a 70% discount.
And what I love about that business is that I think probably everyone in this room may have had the similar thought when they're walking through a town, they see a supermarket or they see a cafe and they think, gosh, what a waste of food that's going to be. And there's so many people who can benefit from that. And then they just go on with their day. But you and your company are actually trying to solve that, and at a huge scale as well. Now, before we get in too much to Too Good To Go, I want to take you back to the start of your entrepreneurial journey. You founded Endomondo? Endomondo.
Yeah.
And that's a GPS workout tracker and social platform. And you've then made the decision to step into the fight against food waste with Too Good To Go. Do you remember what the initial moment was for you that you realized you had to pivot from fitness to food waste?
Yeah, I do remember that. I co-founded Endomondo back in 2007. We sold it to Under Armour early 2015. And then late 2016, I was on a bus in Copenhagen, and I got to sit next to a woman who showed me Too Good To Go on her phone. And at that time, the app had been out for 9 months, and I just thought it was the coolest thing. I really loved the concept. So I got in touch with the founders and asked if I could help, and they were looking for funding and for sparring. They hadn't built any apps before. So I invested a couple of weeks later, and then a few months later they asked if I would come on board full-time. So that was kind of the pivotal moment. But I think what really attracted me was also just going back then and studying food waste and understanding how massive this problem is. Mm-hmm. It's 10% of all greenhouse gas emissions that come from food that we waste. At the same time, we have the social paradox. We produce more than enough food for everyone, and yet around 800 million people go to bed hungry. It just doesn't make any sense.
Crazy. Now, just on a personal level, you mentioned you exited your company to Under Armour. For many people in this room, that's a dream. But when I speak to a lot of founders, they talk about the mental strain that exiting a company has on them and how hard it can be. How did you mentally prepare yourself for the next stage, or how did you cope with that exit, and what did you learn from it?
Yeah, I think the reality is for a lot of founders, when you take the pretty irrational action to quit a well-paying job to start something from scratch, most of the time, at least in the founders I know, we do it because there's something we're passionate about. So it does really become a baby, as cliche as that sounds. And so while you may financially be in a position where you should be celebrating, and I also did, it doesn't mean emotionally that you're completely there yet. And honestly, I don't think I'll ever fully get there. I still miss my baby, but you get a new one and you learn to move on. But it is a little bit double, I think, for most.
Absolutely, bittersweet, I imagine. So, you moved on from Endomondo and went to Too Good To Go. What was the single biggest leadership lesson that you learned that was immediately applicable the moment you joined Too Good To Go?
Yeah, when I took my first CEO role, I think I was about 30, 31 years old, and I definitely didn't want it, but we were running out of money and we couldn't afford anyone decent. So I kind of had to take it. And I think I had all these imaginations around, or pictures around what does a real CEO look like, and I just didn't fit those images. So it took a while for me to learn that, there's not one way of being a CEO, and it's okay to just be yourself. And that, now there's a whole term for it, authentic leadership. I don't like the term very much because it makes it sound like a strategy, right? And for me, it's just the only way I can be in it as me. So I think just, it's very easy really if you manage, but just walk into it as yourself, and that's what I've done as well at Too Good To Go.
So do you think you had a form of imposter syndrome when you first started as a CEO, and then you learned to be comfortable in yourself and trust your judgment and trust your decisions the second time?
I wouldn't even call it imposter syndrome, because it wasn't just me. Like, everyone was telling me, you're not CEO material, period. So it wasn't just from me internally. It was like, I think objectively, I wasn't ready for it, and I didn't have the skill set. So I made a decision that, I want to be good at whatever I do, and if I want to be a good CEO, I have to get serious coaching now, and I have to actually work on it. And I put in a lot of work. And it never ends.
It never ends, yeah, exactly.
That's the other thing.
Lifelong journey. Now, food waste is one of those things that I think we're all probably guilty of in some way or another. And I saw some stats about how Italy's food waste has increased a significant amount in the last year. So it's something we can all have to take responsibility for and try to do better at. What have you learned about shifting deeply ingrained consumer habits that we have, and such as attitudes towards food waste, and what strategies proved most effective to spur real change? Because we can all do with change.
Yeah, and we all create creatures of habit. So it is really a difficult thing to do. With Endomondo, we had to get people off the couch and out and actually sweat. Too Good To Go is a little bit easier, but you still have to get off the couch and you have to go pick up some food. So I think one thing we have focused on is first creating awareness around the issue. Most people don't think about it as an environmental issue. Most people are not aware that we waste $1 trillion worth of food every year. So just getting it into everyone's mind that this is really dumb and we can do better. But then also, it's not enough to create awareness. You have to actually change the habit and you have to change behavior. So for us, it's about making sure it's fun and rewarding. And if it doesn't live up to those things, you're not going to do it again and again. So really try and surprise and delight with every magic bag we save, every surprise bag that a user picks up somewhere. It should be that moment of, oh, wow, this was fun, and it makes sense, and I did something good. What's not to like? That cocktail there, I think, is what we're trying to really perfect. And same goes for our stores, our partners. They're the ones packing the food in the bags every day. So the vision there is it should be almost as easy to save the food with Too Good To Go as it is to throw it away. But it takes a little bit of effort.
And I noticed there you've got a paper. You've recently taken out an advert in Italian press. Could you tell us a bit about that? Is that a behavioural change method that you're trialing, and how did it go?
Yeah, this is actually a campaign from this week. So Monday was UN's International Day for Awareness around food loss and waste. They found a very nice name for it. But we took out this advert just to remind people that in Italy, it's almost 400 euros worth of tax that you put on yourselves because of all the food that you waste every year. And as far as I know, Italians are not wild about paying the taxes. It's different in Denmark. We have a different relationship with our taxes, I think. But this is really, the average consumer wasting almost 400 euro a year in Italy, and that's a self-imposed tax. So that one we can actually do something about.
And what can everyone in this room, if you could say, do one thing to minimize your food waste?
Yeah.
What could that be?
That could be understanding best before dates. It sounds really stupid, right? But on every food product, you have a use by or a best before date. Use by means you have to respect that. Best before means this is the day the producer guarantees the optimal quality. It's still fine to eat after. It's just a matter of the quality and the experience. There's no food safety risk. So just understanding that and just giving the food a chance. If it's best before, we say best before, often good after. Look, smell, taste, don't waste. But that alone can actually save 10% of food waste in Europe.
Wow. And that's something I think that a lot of people trip up on.
Just to be safe, you bin it, right? And
exactly.
There's no need to do that.
Now, you've got the challenge of scaling a company where there's probably tension with pursuing rapid growth and staying true to your principles of impact-driven values. What are the biggest tensions there between trying to grow a company at a huge scale that you're trying to do and remaining true to those core principles?
Yeah. So I think one of the things we really try is to make sure that those are aligned. As we're very mission-driven as a company, and we've tried to make sure that we have a business model that is not counter to our financial success. So every time we save a meal, we know it's because we did something good, and also every time we have any revenue, it's because we saved a meal. So we try to make sure those two are always aligned, so we don't end up having to balance anything at all. They go hand in hand, and I think that's the strength of our model as well. It allows us to really continue to invest in the longer term and not spend too much time on those discussions.
And have you ever faced pressure to compromise on those values?
I wouldn't say we've faced pressure to compromise, but there are, now we are starting to expand into new business models, still centered around food waste, but as we do that, there are some business models that are maybe not as, perfectly fit as the one we have today with our surprise bag. So an example is, we introduced a parcels model, which is also available here in Italy, where we basically save food from the producers, and then consumers can buy it on the app, and it's sent to their home address. That's something we do, and then we'll have people on our team, very environmentally concerned, be like, uh-oh, but now there's logistics going into that, and there's packaging. And that's correct. There is, but saving that food environmentally more than offsets the other things. So then we're like, okay, but net we're having a real positive impact, so that's fine. But I think important that perfection doesn't stand in the way of good solutions.
And we're at a Tallinn Tech Week. Let's talk a bit about technology. How do you use marketplace technology and data to identify unmet needs or problems worth solving?
Yeah, so we use, we are a marketplace for surplus food, so we use technology to make sure we can match consumers and stores, and there's a lot of data and iterations going into that. Then we use data to kind of kickstart our innovation process. So an example can be, we look at, our whole vision is we dream of a planet with no food waste. So then it makes sense to start out, where is food actually wasted today? So we know what's wasted in the retail and food service part of the value chain that we are addressing. Then we look at, what's wasted earlier in the chain, and that was actually what sparked the parcels model, because a lot more food is wasted at the production stage. So then we take that data and we look at, okay, but what are the pain points? Why is that food wasted? And then when we think about innovation, I'm a big fan of taking advantage of the synergies you already have. So like for us, we have, and the assets that you already have. So we have assets like, we have 125 million users who've signed up to Too Good To Go across 19 countries. We have 180,000 stores that work with us on a monthly basis. We have a strong brand now within the consumer space. So with the parcels model, we're basically taking advantage of having all of those consumers and the demand side already built for a new marketplace. So we only have to work on one side of the marketplace as we launch this. So I think it's that combination of technology, data, and the synergies and the assets you already have that can help you define some interesting new ideas.
And what's the biggest barrier to sign up. So what's the biggest barrier that you think people face signing up to this product and getting involved and you know, making that difference?
On the consumer side? Or?
Consumer side, yeah.
On the consumer side, I think, I mean, some of the things we're trying to work with is, it's not, I mean, first of all, we don't do delivery with the surprise bags. You have to go to the store and pick up the food. So in a world where we like our convenience, even if we maybe don't want to pay exactly what it costs, we have to create that habit of, you know, you actually have to go there and pick up the food. And typically it's at the end of the day that you have to go pick up your food. So, like, you know, I think any product, there are some things, and we do a lot of user research and figure out, you know, what are the friction points that we can still work on to improve the product.
Mm-hmm. And ironically, your background in fitness kind of plays into this thing of motivating people to get up, to you know, take action.
Yeah.
So how did that shape your approach to building communities? How did that background in fitness shape your approach now to building these communities for Too Good To Go?
Yeah, I think first of all, I think it's really hard to build a consumer app nowadays that takes off. But it starts with solving a real problem. You have to basically find something that solves a problem and that really excites consumers. With Endomondo, we made fitness more fun. We motivated people to actually do what they knew they had to do, but they lacked that motivation. And with Too Good To Go, we make it fun to, you know, save a meal, do your part, and hopefully we also inspire people to go beyond, to think about the best before dates, to plan your shopping better, to have those go-to recipes for whenever you have some surplus left. So just trying to kind of influence behavior at a bigger level as well.
That's a huge one. I think having the ideas to create surplus, to use surplus ingredients, I think a lot of people, I certainly struggle with coming up with those ideas to make the best use of the things that I have. So I think that's a huge barrier.
So a good one now we're in Italy is pizza.
Exactly, yeah.
You know,
always works.
Put a lot of stuff on a pizza.
So looking ahead, you know, what's the next big market or consumer problem that excites you and Too Good To Go as a challenge to solve?
Yeah, half of all food that goes to waste is actually wasted in the household. So that's food we buy, pay for, and then end up throwing away. I think that is a pretty big challenge. It's one where we don't right now see any strong kind of commercial models to solve, but we still think as part of our mission, we want to try and change some behavior there. So we do that with campaigns like this and different SoMe initiatives. And we also try to educate kids actually now. I think my generation is kind of lost here, but we have put food waste on the agenda in different schools. We're working in France with 2 ministries, so 6,000 schools now get educated around the value of food. If we can instill that in our kids, maybe they can go home and tell their parents about it. So we're trying to influence like a broader movement around the respect for resources.
Mette, it's such a good mission, and I'm sure everyone here wishes you all the best. Ladies and gentlemen, Mette Lykke.
Thank you.